Hello again, and welcome to Working from Home Ceramics Spring 2020 Foundations Raku. So, today we've got a fun sort of side experimental project for you. So, we are working with salt ceramic today, okay? Otherwise known as salt dough. I put a link to the recipe for this on the syllabus. It's going to direct you to Instructables, which is a great website in general for fun craft projects. Things that students and makers alike can pretty much post to. And then you can download those projects or just follow along for fun. So I have pre-made some salt ceramic for us. I went on the low side of the recipe that's listed. So I did a cup of salt, and then I did half a cup of flour, and then just added a little bit more flour as I was mixing, maybe 2 tablespoons to a quarter cup. Then I kneaded it. So if anybody's ever made pizza dough, the magic is in the kneading. So I could make an existential joke there, but I'm not going to. So you just kind of want to work it a little bit. So after you've mixed the dough, go ahead and just work that a little bit, right? So, it's like wedging clay, but what's wedging clay like? It's like kneading dough, right? So go ahead and get that workable. I did put this in my refrigerator for about half hour to an hour. And then while I'm doing this video, I'm preheating my oven to 200 degrees. And that's where I'm going to go ahead and bake what we're going to be making today. Okay. So basically, all the instructions are on that link. That is how to make it. Sort of fun projects you can make, like bunnies or fish, if you want to go that route. But then it also tells you how to bake it. So you're going to bake it at 200 degrees for at least an hour. Thicker, larger work, you're going to be baking for up to 4 hours. Okay. So one thing you want to do when you're working is go ahead and work directly on a baking sheet. And you want to cover that baking sheet in tin foil. It's just going to make it easy to remove. Okay. Set that aside for a second. So what are we doing today? I'm going to show you all how to make some texture tools, right? So in our home toolkit last week, I showed you pillowcases using hangers as thickness gauges for rolling out slabs. We got into some reductive work with our lidded jars. In addition to everything we've learned so far this semester in terms of hand building and decoration, adding textures, I thought I would today sort of spin off of that a little bit. So I have some texture tools. These are things I found around my house. I have these silicone Ziploc bags. If you don't have them, go get them. They're amazing. But this is just the zipper part. But it's got this pretty cool kind of like little, channel that I could like press in or press down and get some interesting sort of patterning or textures. I have our trusty tools from last week. We have our texture tool here, and we have our knife for cutting out. I have this. It's sort of the sucker back end of it, like a little mini baster, little dropper, okay? So it has a nice round spot there that I can kind of maybe press to get, again, a sort of a pattern technique. I have a bunch of sycamores in my yard, which do not create the best bark. But I brought in some examples. So I have like a stick here, for instance. So I could press that and get maybe more of a natural kind of pattern. And I brought some just examples of bark. And then we had some mulch in our yard. So we just had some really nice chunky pieces of wood. And then these are just some stir sticks that I have laying around that's literally just like rectangular long piece. So I could take that small square end and impress that to create like a square pattern. I could shift that on a diagonal and do a sort of alternating, almost like diamond pattern, for instance. And then I have, very randomly, a stainless steel straw, which also has a hole, so I can sort of cut out circles, basically. And these are just some texturing options for you guys. So basically what I'm going to be making today are texture tools. So texture tools can be anything. One thing I do want to preface, though, before I forget, is salt ceramic is ceramic, okay? It will bake, it will become hard, it will become archival. You will be able to paint it. Once it is painted, you can then coat that in like a polyurethane or a shellac, some kind of sealant, okay? So I'm just gonna take a little bit of the salt ceramic that I've pre-made for you guys, and I'm gonna make sort of a thin rectangular texture tool, one that I might be able to repeat. So rather than creating a whole sheet of a texture, I'm essentially going to take a section of what would be a sheet, and then I can use that almost like a stamp pressing onto my slab, or even if I make a pinch pot, for instance, I can take it and press it into the side of that pinch pot, okay? So, looks like a breadstick. If anybody's hungry, I suggest eating lunch prior to watching this video. So I'm just going to press that down a little bit. Now, one thing I have here is a little jar of water. So if I find that it's sticky, I can add a little bit of water, or I can even have a little extra flour here that I can sprinkle on as well. Okay, so if you feel like it's a little sticky, you can go ahead and deal with that. So I'm just going to go ahead and smooth that out. If I want to get that real smooth, again, I can use the tools I have at home. This is a great one. Go ahead and smooth that out. Right? Cool. So I was kind of thinking I wanted to do almost like a opposite kind of pattern where I would have a positive, negative. So then as I press that onto my piece, some of those indentations will go in, and some of those indentations will be convex. So we're talking concave and convex. So I was going to go ahead and just press in some circles. And so this stuff is pretty funny. If anybody can remember back to their preschool days, I actually do. And I'm 35, y'all, so I don't have a great memory, but I remember this. Probably also because my mom still has the ornaments we made. But yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and just remove that extra bit that sort of popped out. And I can even use, I'm going to set that aside actually, because we're going to use that. So we're talking positive, negative here. We're talking concave, convex. So I'm just really carefully removing the sort of insides. And then I'm going to use those guys. I'm going to show you how we sort of assemble with the salt ceramic. Okay. All right. So, boop, boop, boop. Go ahead and get that maybe in a nice little organized rectangle there. And you can come in, the nice thing about working on the tin foil is, for instance, you can see where I've got some, where I pressed this, I have some salt ceramic kind of still in these holes. So what's really nice is I can kind of just come in with my finger and ream that and push that towards the edge of the circle. And that'll give me a nice full open circle, okay? All right, so if I want to join with salt ceramic, that is, I want to start to assemble. So one thing I do want to mention is some folks may not have clay at home. The reason I'm also showing this is not for you all to just be able to make your own tools, but you can experiment with form here. So if I added a little bit more flour to this mixture, it would give it a bit more body, and that way I could actually start to coil build with it, for instance. And to do that, I just add a little bit of water between each layer. I don't even need to score. If anybody uh, grew up in the punk era, which I did not, we thought we did in the 90s, but we didn't realize that that happened about 20 years prior. But if anyone grew up in the punk era, you know all about wheat paste. And what is wheat paste? It's basically flour and water, right? So that basically creates a glue for you. Salt, sodium chloride, mixed with the flour is what sort of creates that rigid, hard ceramic, okay? So this dough feels kind of funny right now. It does not feel like dough. It feels grainy, granular from the salt. And you can sort of see how it's like drying on my hands. It's the salt there. So we are in my kitchen, y'all. This went from ceramic 2020 to cook with Mary Catherine, but you know, here we are. It's Corona time. It's Corona time. We do what we want, all right? No holds barred. Maybe a few holds, all right? So anyways, I'm going to take my ball, right? Dip it in a little bit of water here. Bring that over. A little bit of water. I'm going to add just a little bit of water there, and I'm going to boop, press that on, okay? So now when I press this onto my clay in the future, I'm going to have a negative and a positive. Okay, so I'm going to repeat that, and I'm going to alternate these. I don't want these too extreme because there is this idea of like undercut, right? Or displacement beyond the mass itself. So this is pretty chunky right now. We'll probably get some results, but how far these are raised up versus how concave these are, we'll want a thicker slab to work with to really get the sort of result, the quality of this tool that we're making, okay? So, a little one there. And these become hard, okay? I don't know if anyone's ever done this. I know we have a lot of fellow educators in the class as well, so go ahead and leave some comments if you've done this with any class of yours. I know we have some youth ceramic teachers and we have some other fellow educators, so chime in. I'd love to hear your feedback. Okay. And what's nice, another material that we used to make a lot in school was this stuff called Gooblik. And different people call it different things, but it's basically cornstarch and water. This has sort of that similar quality where when you start to touch it, it starts to sort of, I don't know what that word is, but relax a little bit. So where this was really raised before, if I sort of just pat that down, I can actually decrease the height of that. So there's one texture tool. So when this is done and dry, I can then take that and then press and press and press onto a slab, for instance, okay? So that's one option. Another option, one thing that I was gonna get to and we got cut off before I actually got there, was this idea of stamps, okay? So as you all progress in your ceramic practice, you're gonna wanna start signing your work, right? It's a fun thing to do. And then that way people know what's yours, right? So I'm gonna make a stamp. And so with that stamp, you know, I could come in and I could do my initials essentially. Now I wanna decide, is my stamp, is my image sort of reliefed that is above, so then I would have a negative impression into my clay? Or is my stamp below, so then the clay itself becomes relieved or positive when I press, right? So we talked about displacement last week. And so same thing here. When we impress these tools into the clay, what's happening, right? Where's that clay going? It's not going away, it's being displaced, okay? So I'm gonna get all cool here. And I'm just gonna do 3 lines, right? This is not a snickerdoodle, y'all. I know everyone's, you know, making their sourdoughs and made like 40 loaves of banana bread already. That's what I'm doing after this. I got rotten bananas I got to take care of. So now essentially I just have this little tool that I can impress on the bottom of my pieces. So I know when I go and look for the work that I've made in class, I just need to look for this on the bottom of my mug. Or, you know, a lot of potters will actually press to the side of their work, right? So it's really visible. It's sort of a part of their work. I'm going to take our trusty texture tool here. And maybe I just want to sort of bypass the signature stamp and just sort of think about texture stamps. So I'm going to sort of eliminate what I just did. Now we're talking peanut butter cookie, guys. I swear I ate lunch before this. So now we've got some different textures. Another option for literally all of the materials I have lying around my house. So you all are participating with me in a ceramics course. However, I'm a mixed media sculptor with an emphasis in glass and ceramic. So you come to my house, you need something, I probably have it. Cardboard, foam, glue, casting material, wax, soldering irons, table saws, kilns. I have that. I don't have rope, y'all. Don't tell anybody, okay? So one other fun thing would be is to just press in some rope, right? And get some really nice rope impressions. I'm gonna sort of take that cue and go ahead, I'm gonna press in some bark. So I can get maybe some more natural texture here to impress into my ceramic. Bruce, if you're watching this, thank you, my friend. You're the OG bark texture guy. So those are just some fun little pieces we have to explore and play with. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is throw these in the oven. These are small and relatively thin, so I probably don't have to bake them more than an hour. So I'm going to throw these in the oven. Once they're done, we're going to jump outside into the studio, and I'm going to show you all how we can use these on some of our clay. All right, stay tuned.